Good evening and welcome to our episode 24. As always, let's start with gratitude attitude. So please gently close your eyes and take a deep breath. As you exhale, relax your body. Take one more deep breath, and as you exhale, relax some more. Take another deep breath, and this time, completely let yourself go. Now, think of one thing which you are thankful for that happened to you within the last 1 week. Once you have identified that, think about why you are thankful. And now let's set it free. If you are by yourself, say it out loud what you are thankful for and why. If you are with someone, tell it to each other. Okay. So last week we discussed inherent existence, one of Buddha's wisdom teachings. It's a deep topic, so we'll continue on that topic to make sure that we have good understanding before we move on to the next subject. Most people take all phenomena as inherently existent. Like my friend Sunan told me last week, IRS exists, otherwise I won't have to pay taxes. And we'll talk about that today sometime. But there is, as we discussed, there is no inherent existence. All phenomena are imputed existence. There's a huge difference between the two. During our discussion, we talked about examples of a flower, right? We took the flower apart, all the petals apart. We look at a car example and we thought, hey, are the tires a car? No. Is the steering wheel a car? No. Are the seats car? No. Right? If somebody gave you all those parts on a big pile, would that become a car? No. Right? So we tried to find both of those objects within their parts or a combination of parts. But to our amazement, we could not find either objects. So today we'll try to find something different from scratch to bring this point home. We all have a good understanding of what a forest look like. And I'm sure we can say, we'll see and we'll know when we see one. Say one of our friends bought a house on a large tract of land, say 35 acres. They start planting some trees, say 5 trees on their property. They call and say, hey, can you come over to see my forest? So we go there, see 5 trees, and say, well, this is not a forest, buddy. I have 5 trees in my backyard. It does not make a forest. So he gets disappointed. He starts planting more trees. Now he has more than, maybe let's say, 40 trees. He calls and says, "Hey, now I really have a forest. Check it out." So we go there, take a look. Still not a forest. I mean, maybe a grove, but definitely not a forest. So he goes back to work, keeps calling us every few weeks to see. Every time we see more trees for sure, but disappoint him when we tell him that it's not a forest. A year or so goes by. He calls us and say, "Hey, come over." And we go. And we can't even count number of trees on this 35 acre of land. We can't figure out where the trees begin and where they end. At that point, we say, "Yep, you did it. This is a forest, my friend." When did this group of trees become a forest? Can we point to one tree that made this a forest? Of course not. So we all agree that forest is an imputed existence. There is no defined characteristics, if you will. It's a forest because we agreed to call it a forest. In some schools of thought, they call this a dependent existence because it depends upon the sense perception of the person who experienced the phenomena. So let's look at things we see, for example. When we see something, when you are watching this on your computer, the image we see are made up of light reflected from the objects we look at. It, they taught this in, I think, 8th or ninth grade science, probably. This light enters the eye through the cornea, which acts like a window at the front of the eye. Because the front part of the eye is curved, it bends the light, creating an upside down image on the retina. That image ends up in the brain. It turns the image right way up, and then we can see it. So, in other words, what we see is on our mind, but not out there. Without the interpretation, there is no object. And we talked briefly about this last week as well, when we talked about this car example came up during Q&A, that if a car is coming at me, it is not real that I run away, right? And we'd say, okay, if you are there and right next to you, a person who is a blind person as well as a deaf person, right? I mean, he's blind and deaf, same person is standing right next to you. A car's coming at you. You see cars coming at you. You see it's a car. But the person who is blind and deaf, for them, there is no car, right? It doesn't exist in their perception. Similarly, when we hear music, we are hearing music in our mind, not out there. This is called dependent existence. So there is no such thing as inherent existence. Either it's imputed or it's dependent. And I know it's a profound subject, and we'll take some time to get clarity on the subject. But once that clarity comes, life becomes simple. We no longer grasp on anything and take things as they come without any attachment toward these objects. Think about it. Right now, we grasp at so many things in life. Everything stops because it's dependent or imputed existence and not an inherent existence. If we look at things that we grasp on a daily basis, it's insane. Some of us are attached to our cars, our homes, our computers, our 50 pairs of shoes, our money, and whatnot. But if we start looking at this and realize that there is no inherent existence, our attachment towards these objects will gradually reduce. It won't happen overnight, it will gradually reduce. And at some level, we know the fragility of all this, but we just are not ready today to accept it. Or we may not have awareness to see it in the moment. We may grasp it, let's say, intellectually, but when we are in a heat of the moment, that thing doesn't come out always the way it should. Something to think about, that all existence is either dependent existence or imputed existence. There is no such thing as inherent existence. And we start looking at that, our life becomes a lot simpler. So in today's meditation, we'll always, as always, we'll first settle down in our hearts. Then let's try to imagine our mind is this vast, bright, sunny sky. And thoughts are clouds that come and go. So this is one of our back to basics meditation we'll do today. We'll observe the thoughts that may come and disappear in this vast empty sky. We'll just observe without giving them any attention and without chasing them. If we just observe, we'll notice that they will disappear. And that will allow us to observe the empty like nature of space. So if you're ready, let's start. Let's get into our meditation posture. Please get into a cross-legged position, or if you're sitting on a couch or a chair, make sure your legs are straight, your back is upright. Gently close your eyes. Keep your mouth just a little bit open. So any tension you may have in your jaws will get released. Put your palms in your lap, right over left. Your thumbs are gently touching each other. And now take a deep breath. Take another deep breath. Bring your attention to the tip of your nostrils. Feel the cool air as you inhale. Feel slightly warmer air as you breathe out. Focus on your breathing for a minute or so on your own. Now bring your attention to your heart. Imagine everything that happened before this moment melts away in light. Everything that has yet to happen is not happened anyway. It's not real. So just stay in this moment. Observe the bright sunny sky in your mind, vast open space. Thoughts may pop up just like clouds in a sky. Just acknowledge the thought without chasing them, and that will disappear. Just enjoy the vast space, which is the nature of your root mind at your heart. If a thought comes, just gently acknowledge it without chasing it, and it will disappear. If you find yourself chasing your thoughts and your sky becomes cloudy, go back to sensation of your breath for about 5 to 10 breaths. Keep your focus on the vast empty like space that is your root mind, and enjoy the peace that it provides. If a thought arises, just gently acknowledge it and it will go away. If you find yourself in clouds of thought, just go back to sensation of your breath for about 5 or 10 breaths. Enjoy the peace at your heart. When you're ready, gently open your eyes. Okay. Any questions? Sunan bhai?
No, I think this time it was a little more clear to me than
Okay.
last week. So thank you, Nirali.
Absolutely. And it's going to take some time as we talk about these things, right? Little bit goes in, right?
Yeah,
So if we keep repeating it with different examples, then hopefully, over time we'll get somewhere.
yeah, yeah. No.
So I want to address your IRS question.
Oh,
So let's look at IRS, right? It's a very good uh, question that it exists for sure, obviously, in a sense that it's a dependent existence as opposed to an inherent existence, though. And I'll tell you why. For someone who lives in India,
mhm,
who has no connection to IRS, for them, IRS doesn't exist. For someone who lives in LA, who is undocumented, who's getting paid in cash doing construction work, for them, IRS doesn't exist because it's not in their experience. So that makes it a dependent existence as opposed to inherent existence, right?
yeah,
Um, so the point is either something is imputed existence or dependent existence, but not inherent existence. Inherent means okay, it exists and that's it, and there's nothing else, and but there's no such thing, right? Uh, this ashram you're at, right? If you take all those cushions away and put a projection and put a recliner chairs in there, right? All of a sudden it's a movie theater,
mhm,
right? So
yeah,
so ashram itself is not an inherent existence. So hopefully it makes it a little bit clear,
yeah,
as
yeah,
we continue. So
yeah. It does.
good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, then let's go ahead and stop our recording.